Here's the problem with referrals. One month you could have 100, the next month you could have two. So on top of that referral system that you're building, in my opinion, you should build a.
All right. Hey, Justin Marks, thank you so much for being on the show. So excited to learn from you, man, because, man, the lead game is something that all the agents are trying to figure out. And to have the president of Quotehound on here, it's a real honor to have you on the show. How you doing?
Doing great, Dan. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I want to have a lot of questions, regarding basically, leads and how it helps insurance agents and your company specifically. But where are you based at right now? And tell us a little bit about your, story and, let's go back to the early days, how you got back into insurance and everything.
Yeah, well, appreciate the time. Definitely excited to dive in. So, a little bit about me as a person. I'm from the East Coast, specifically Connecticut, and went to college in the great state of New Hampshire. Live free or die. After college, I didn't really have anything pulling me anywhere for a job. So I actually followed one of my best friends growing up out to San Diego. And while in San Diego, I was a beach bum for a good solid 2 to 3 months before I realized, hey, I have real bills starting to come in and probably should start to figure this out. Once I started on that journey, it was pretty streamlined, which is really rare and really nice to report. But I ended up landing at a performance-based marketing company called Underground Elephant at the time. And when I first started there, I was entry level sales, answering the phone, really boots on the ground, helping them manage their agent division channel. From that, I've learned a ton of great skills that have translated into my entire career. Within that path, I was able to transition from really a retail model to a more enterprise model and play really within that hybrid role of customer service and sales. So I was managing clients ranging from captive agencies, Farmers, Allstate, State Farm, all the way up to large publicly traded companies where I could have larger relationships where they were spending 6, 7, 7.5 figures a month on marketing. So it was
Wow.
great boots on the ground experience, and was able to dive in from an early time with that company.
Underground Elephant, I think you guys came to my district one time, or I think I've heard of, yeah, the
Yeah.
lead as a lead vendor.
Yep. So that's where I got my start, and I always loved that name. I thought it was really catchy. We had a phenomenal work environment, and I was able to meet some of my best friends in Southern California. And San Diego is not a bad place to hang out for a few years. So that's kind of where I got my start in the industry, and I managed verticals ranging from PNC, so the auto and home. For a quick second, we were in mortgage, debt, solar, and got to manage some really cool relationships and companies that I never would have had exposure to. So it's been really interesting. And the commonality between all those different roles and all those different products was I work with businesses and
Mhm.
help them use performance-based marketing to make a positive effect on their business, help them grow their unique business count, their client count, help them grow a profitable business where it wasn't just monoline business. So it wasn't just a renter's policy. It was maybe, 2 cars, a home with good credit. So really helping those clients understand what type of marketing is right for them and what type of marketing makes sense for their bottom line.
Gotcha. So were you more in like the customer relationship side of the business, or were you more in the back end? Were you learning both at the company?
I did a little bit of both. So, I started, like I said, I started boots on the ground answering phones, really on the customer service side. That's where I learned how A to B and B to C actually worked. For a brief period of time, I moved over to fully selling agents. So,
Mhm.
onboarding new clients who were looking for leads. And really what I learned through that process is I like the relationship. And although selling does have a relationship, I really like the long tail relationship where I'm able to, bring them in, collectively manage that account and help them see that impact that we're looking to make for them. So during my last part of working at that organization, I really focused on the hybrid role where I was working with people who are spending sizable amounts of money for a captive agency and take their business and grow their business. So I was really on the relationship side slash account management side.
Nice. What's like a big account for a captive agent, you think, spend per month?
I think our highest month was 60 grand, 65,000 for a captive agency spending on leads and calls. So it's a pretty decent chunk of change for a captive agency.
Wow. Yeah, agents are if they when they find something, agents love to grow their agency. So yeah, that's a big account there.
Yeah. So those accounts range anywhere from probably 10 to 65, with majority being in the 20s, the high teens to low 20s is probably the average spend for most of those accounts on a monthly basis.
Wow, okay. So what about the technical side? How did you learn some of that there too? Or because I mean,
I
is
did.
it all like people like outsource or I mean
No, no. So it was 100% internal, and
Mhm.
I'm a question guy. That's how I learn. And some people get turned off by when others ask questions, but for me, growing up, I was that kid who's like, "Hey, how does that actually work? And how does that work? Or why? Or who? Or how?" So I slowly just made inroads with the right types of people at the organization. Started to ask, "Hey, how does this work in from a backend perspective? We understand people shop, but how do they ultimately get connected to the agency that I work with?" So by asking and peeling back the layers of the onion, I was able to understand, okay, here's the consumer journey, and essentially be able to replicate that for my new organization, Quotehound.
Mhm.
And we haven't just replicated, we've changed many things along the lines, but it was really just asking the right people the questions because most folks are willing to share their processes or how things work from a high level perspective.
Yeah, so you never really worked in that department, but you understood it enough, you felt like?
Yeah, I was able to get the exposure that I really needed to understand the high level items. But from the day to day perspective, I wasn't solely in charge with the distribution. It was
Mhm.
mainly I befriended and asked the right types of questions. So I understand the concept of things. And as I transitioned to starting Codehound, I had to take those conceptual items and turn them into a real product that had
Mhm.
functionality behind it, which I'm not sure if you can see behind me, but I have my lovely whiteboard where I whiteboard things out, and I know you have one behind you. That's my favorite way to understand how things work and kind of sketch them out for success or sketch out where it's going to break.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, well, for most people out there, agents, we have no idea what's going on. To build something out like that, I mean, do you think it's as complex or you have to be as smart as we think you have to be?
I think there's definitely a level of intelligence. I'll state that. I think there's a few things that have helped me become successful. Um, Partner with the right people who can drive you to see where the end carrot is,
Right.
and fail, and then take those failures and expand upon them so you can succeed. In my opinion, when you look at something from a holistic approach, it's very cumbersome. Like, how do I start a lead generation company? Big problem. But if you isolate those small little challenges and break them apart in 1% challenges over 6 months, over 12 months, over 2 years, almost over 3 years for us, you really start to break apart the parts that you can make a meaningful impact on and start to make sense of a problem that seemed very cumbersome before.
Yeah. No, well said. I think it's the same thing for agency owners, right? You know, operating agency is not easy, but one step at a time, we figure things out, and constant improvement is the way to go.
If I can improve 1% each day, it's a big improvement over a year. I mean, I'll take 1% wins all day. I'll take singles, I'll take bunts, I'll take those because collectively those add up to the home run. And I think it's important to get those mental wins because when the hill's too tough to climb and you're not making any wins or any progress, it can be mentally draining.
Yeah. Yeah, small wins, confidence boosters, you go in the right direction, and in Atomic Habits, 1% wins. He says it ends up to a 37% growth or improvement over a year.
Which I'll take anytime. That's a great
Yeah,
that's a
right.
great growth trajectory.
Definitely. So how long ago was this, and when did you start Quotehound?
Yeah, so I entered the lead generation space in November of 2014. It's about when I
Mhm.
started. And then I transitioned. Quotehound was founded July 3rd, 2019. So we're coming up on our third year anniversary. And we're right now based out of Dallas, Texas, but we have team members anywhere from Boston to Ohio to Arizona, California, and then here in Texas. So we're pretty diversified, and definitely it was interesting opening a business during the pandemic where, you know, uh, two of our team members, the first week they started was March, right? March 15th. So that's kind of when the world changed for better, for worse, just changed. So having a business model that you find the right people, you can put training in place and help them grow, even if it's not an office environment, has been exciting and challenging and a good driving force for, hey, if we can make it during the pandemic where things are unknown, we can kick butt during normal times.
Definitely. And in fact, do you think that people started shopping online more because of the pandemic?
Yeah, I think, if you look at natural search trends on search engines like Google, Yahoo, Bing, historic events in the world or world events drive people's curiosity. When there's curiosity growth, people search and people inquire about things. So, for example, um, The rate increases are a great example. So when a carrier has a large rate increase, you see a massive influx in the amount of consumers shopping because the marketing on the billion-dollar organizations is starting to resonate. Hey, save money, ask questions. So natural events typically do that. When there's a big hurricane, you're going to see a huge amount of people doing it. Really big events, you're going to see a natural shift. Same thing with the pandemic. They have more time on their end. They're probably looking at their bills a little bit more closely than they were before. And they're either trying to pull back in areas where they're overspending, or maybe just reevaluate the things that they are spending on, and there could be some inefficiency.
Yep. Yeah, I felt like there was more shoppers during that year. But tell me a little bit about that transition. How scary was it, or did you have things set up, or were you on your own, or you had some partners, or what made you make that jump from employer to employee to employer?
Yeah, so I think it was a mental challenge that I was looking for. So, I worked hard at my old organization. I like to believe that I did an efficient job, but I was looking for that next driving force to help me out of my comfort zone. And I think that's so important. And, part of my time there, I worked pretty closely with two clients, and those two clients ended up being co-founders of Quotehound. So Jeff Shee and Justin Negger were those two driving forces. And we were sitting in San Diego one night after dinner saying, hey, think we could do this. I think we could do this on our own. And I think we can provide a good consumer experience. I think we can provide a great consumer experience or a great partner experience for other folks that are looking to understand a little bit more about the lead generation world. And from there, 3, maybe 4 months later, poof, we started. It was a process to get the technology in place, which is, in my opinion, one of the largest lifts, and to establish the relationships that were unestablished at the time. But it took us a good 4, 5, 6 months to get the infrastructure in place. From there, we have put technology in place that's scalable. So as we bring on another 1,000 clients, as we find another 2 million shoppers in the marketplace, our technology has been built with scale in mind, and we can simply just increase our usage and acquire those customers and scale for the business needs that we don't have today.
Oh, wow, that's so interesting. That's so cool. Yeah, you guys, because they had experience from the buyer side,
Mhm.
and then you guys you had the experience of providing them the leads. So yeah, sounds like a perfect partnership there.
So together we understood, okay, from a buyer's perspective, why are not all leads created equal, right? If you
Hmm.
look at a monoline policy, what's the true LTV of a monoline policy versus someone who owns a boat, an ATV, 2 cars in a home, right? So that was the part that I had very little exposure to. And working with people who lived and breathed in that world, it was important to understand the transition that, yes, marketing can bring policies, but are all policies created equal? And are all policies created equal for the bottom line of the business? And understanding that mix was a big mind shift that I had to undertake, because my partners are growing unprofitably. It's going to be a small 10 share of our relationship. So
Right.
understanding those underwriting attributes have become very important so that we can become a sizable partner for people. And those folks can grow their business. They can hire more service folks. They can hire more sales folks, and they can simply just reinvest the marketing dollars back into the engine that's powering them.
Nice. Yeah, and then yeah, they're big time agents. Um, so it was kind of like they started a company and they were their own customers.
Yeah, we for a period of time, they were sizably one of the larger clients we've had. We've since diversified in many verticals. So we focus on auto insurance, home insurance, commercial, life and health. So we're pretty diversified from a vertical perspective. But yeah, they were anchor clients for a long period of time because they were consuming the same product that we were creating. So it's
Hmm.
pretty unique because from that relationship, we were able to create a closed loop reporting environment. So I could truly see when we delivered a lead, how many times it take to call that lead, how many quotes were yielded off that calling mechanism, how many of those quotes are the premium tier policies, how many of them are in the middle, and how many are in the non-standard bucket. So it did provide some cool closed loop reporting, which
Hmm.
a lot of folks struggle with their lead providers, is to give that feedback to them, and then
Right.
not only give that feedback to them, but what do they do with it so that they can change the messaging, change the marketing materials so that the policies are different for other partners.
Gotcha. What are some metrics you think agents should be looking at when they look at when they buy the leads, and sometimes they're like, oh, the ROI is not good or the closing ratio, this and that. But what are some important metrics agents should be monitoring, you think?
Yeah, that's such a big wide question. And I think you have to use the same thought process when I started Quotehound for that process. So you have to break it apart into a few key metrics. And those key metrics are going to be judged over a period of time. So initially, am I talking to the right types of consumers? So if I'm looking to sell a policy with Chubb, I don't believe that someone with no insurance and 18 would be that perfect consumer. So understanding the types of conversations you're looking to have is truly critical.
Mhm.
Then from there, you need to understand the processes that you as a business owner have in place. Do I have people to call the leads? Do I have people to text the leads? Is there email automation fired up? Once that lead is in my system, how do I nurture that for a period of time that changes throughout? So how do I manage that sales cycle? So the first day, contacting that consumer quickly and efficiently is really important. But still, even if they don't answer in that first day, how do I build a 90-day plan? How do I build a 100-day plan for still putting them in a nurture program and not letting that opportunity go? I think that's one of the areas that a lot of agents really struggle with, is to build that robust CRM, that robust follow-up, because not everyone will answer on the first call, and really having those metrics in place is very important.
You mean
With it,
they won't just answer and buy right away?
Dan, I think the world would be a different place if everyone answered the phone. Thankfully we have folks calling about my extended warranty to really help me answer the phone every single time. You know, I always wonder, is in the back of my head when I answer the phone, okay, what's the probability of this being an auto warranty call, or something that I really don't want to have that conversation about.
Yeah. No, they kind of ruin it for the rest of us, but yeah, that's absolutely right. Yeah, I think it's important that we look at, as agency owners, not just the lead source, but our, producers and the lead management system. It's like, everything has to be working together for it to have a successful campaign. And it's not just the lead source, but what else do you think is
So I think understanding your staff is really important.
mhm,
So I use the analogy of square peg in a round hole. So not all team members are built for all products. So for example, we QA a lot of our calls for our partners, and we can provide information on, hey, maybe this team member, their opening statement or their opening conversation with this consumer is a little off, and the consumer and the partner just aren't resonating. So I think understanding the type of product you're delivering to your team, and is it really good fit, is really, really important. Because if you're putting someone on calling data leads and they're not a warm and fuzzy person, when that person answers the phone, it's going to be a little bit of a tension between them. So putting someone on internet leads that shouldn't be calling internet leads is a dangerous piece. Same thing on the opposite of the spectrum. If you look at phone calls, some folks, they get uncomfortable when they're on the phone, and they don't have that transitional skill to move from, hey, how are you? I see you're calling in for, a final expense quote, to transitioning to that, I'm so glad you called in, let's get that policy started for you, and just that mindset shift. So I think it's hard to project that, but having boots on the ground with your agency force and understanding your skill set and who lies with the best product is really one of those things that, once right, it hums along beautifully. If the synergy's off, or if the juju's off, you're going to find a little bit of a struggle between the performance of the marketing material and the business growth.
yeah, absolutely. So what type of leads do you guys offer?
We offer a range of leads. So we offer anything from shared web leads, uh,
Mhm.
exclusive web leads, inbound phone calls that are consumer initiated. And we also offer a live call transfer product. And some of those products shift depending on the type of vertical you're looking for. So our product offering in life and health and Medicare is a little bit different than the P&C world. Same thing in the commercial. But we really have products that suit most verticals and most agencies and what they'd be looking for.
What do you think is um for PNC agencies, what's good place to start, or what's a good place? What are some options you like to kind of push them towards the live
Yeah.
transfers, or the shared webs?
Again, I think it's different. So each agency, in my opinion, business owners are typically good at a few things. And when we go outside of that comfort zone, people struggle, right? So one of my first questions is, when we're having that consultation, is, what are you guys currently doing for marketing? What is working for you now, or what's breaking for you now? Because if you talk to an agency owner and they're missing all these calls, why would you want to sell them more calls
Yeah.
if they're having inefficiencies in answering those same phone conversations? So what I found is most agencies either do web leads really efficient, they have a buttoned up process, they're leveraging the omni channel, the texting and emailing, or they are a well-oiled machine at answering phone calls. And where I find agency owners struggle is trying to do both at the same time, trying to do that juggling act where, okay, if I buy X amount of data leads and backfill with, 10, 15 transfers a day, and they really just never in that groove. And it's just a consistent seesaw back and forth.
Gotcha. So you think one, master that one at least, get really used to one flow.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
And again, finding the right person at that agency. So,
Right.
if you have a agency force of 10 and 9 are built for web leads and one person's built for phone calls, maybe do something different for that one team member, because you might think that they struggle to close, but in reality, we're buying the wrong product for the wrong person, and paired with the right product for the right person, their closing ratio could go from bottom of the barrel to holy Toledo, these guys are kicking butt.
Gotcha. Yeah. Um, Really interesting. I think one of the questions I think a lot of agents probably have is probably the big secret, where are these leads coming from?
Yeah, great question. So any lead vendor you work with under the sun, they have a multitude of sources. So when you break apart sourcing from a high level, you're going to have a couple core generation sources. So when you think core, you think Google, Yahoo, Bing. So people going onto a search engine, they're going to type in specific keywords, auto insurance in Orange County, California, right? So
Hmm.
that's going to be a search lead. The other probably 2 or 3 main channels you're going to see are social leads. So that's where you're scrolling your news feed through Facebook, through Instagram, through TikTok, and you see an ad, you're captivated by it, you're going to click. So that's the social aspect of it. The next is going to be email offering. So where a large database exists, publishers are emailing new offerings to their current database, and from there they're able to enter the generation world on the email. And then the last major piece is going to be display. So that's when you're on the major news websites like CNN, CNBC, Fox News, and those little banner ads are going to pop up on the top right, the middle, or the bottom right. So those are going to be your core 4 different generation spots. And most lead vendors are going to have a different mix of different product based on the channels. So one of the things that's truly important, in my opinion, wherever you buy leads, is understanding where you're buying leads from, because the intent level
Hmm.
is wildly different between the person who's going into Google looking for something versus
Typing
someone
in,
who's,
yeah.
yeah, their intent level is extremely high. They went into the conversation knowing they're looking for auto insurance, versus someone who's scrolling for their news feed. It's disruptive. You're disrupting their thought process. Maybe they're just hanging out, and you're presenting them with a new opportunity. So the intent level is going to be wildly different. So most sources will be able to help you understand, okay, here are the leads from search, here are the leads from social, and you can break those apart.
Gotcha, yeah. But you guys don't know the conversion ratio because you guys, once you send it to somebody, you guys don't know which ones get sold, huh? Is that
You know,
makes it
the,
tough for you?
the partners that have really good success with us,
Mm-hmm.
they pass it back, and that's why they see such a phenomenal success rate. So we break that apart in 2 different ways. Some of our partners, they send disposition data back on a weekly basis, and we're able to track over time which sources are performing better for other folks. And one of the crazy things that blew me away is not all partners perform on the same on all sources. So one partner might kick butt on Google. The
Mm-hmm.
next partner might really struggle on Google. And the way I've started to understand that process is it comes down to the staff and how they're answering and how they're resonating with those consumers. So if it's a person within their age or is really good at finding those commonalities between the people, maybe social is going to be a better type of lead for those folks.
Hmm. That's interesting, huh?
I think so. And that's why when partners come on board, it's so imperative that they pass that data back, because
Uh-huh.
it's not just a magical box that you put money in and policies come out. It really has to be a relationship where, based on how you're performing in your agency, we adjust things, not the standard pro quo or what has worked for others. Yes, we do have a template where we understand how things work, but it's really the agency owner who provides that disposition data so that we can craft it to their specific needs and their specific performance.
That's really cool that you guys have that ability to work with the agency owner because you don't really usually will be able to get that from the larger lead vendors, right?
Yeah, it just depends on the agency. Most folks can take it. Not all vendors will offer it, but most folks
Mhm.
should be able to accomplish that.
Yeah, and then for you guys to actually like consult and talk which one might be better. That's awesome that you guys have that service and you're welcome. You like to work with agencies on a personal level and try to customize, and consult with them actually, really.
And I think, use preconceived notion, or I use it. Preconceived notion of leads is, they're all bad, they're a necessary evil. Well, I challenge that thought, because I do personally know folks who are having wild success with lead generation companies in general, and specifically with us. But when I break that apart, the people who put money in and give nothing back in terms of the reporting, in terms of the boots on the ground knowledge that they're to provide, that's the people that are turn and burn. But the people that have been with us since inception, the reason why they're successful is we get their feedback, we analyze with data, and we make decisions based on what that data is. Not feelings, not hunches, based on physical numbers and what they're seeing. So if they're having conversations where the quotes are just not qualifying because they're too young or because they've had one too many accidents, that's the type of knowledge that agency owners need to be passing back to their lead providers so that real tangible changes can be made.
Gotcha. You guys have abilities to do a lot of filters?
We do. We do. We have the capabilities of targeting consumers in a number of different fashions. So when you talk about auto insurance, you have kind of your common filters, current insurance, accidents, DUIs, SR22s. But then we can also break apart filters in a couple other ways. So think of your closing ratio against other specific carriers. So Dan, for example, if you know that Liberty Mutual, Farmers has a phenomenal close ratio against Liberty Mutual, we can strategically target consumers who currently have Liberty Mutual. And you can use that both to target and to suppress specific carriers. So for example, State Farm, maybe some people really struggle to close against State Farm for a number of reasons. We can suppress conversations from coming in the door where they know they're going to be having an uphill battle. And we can use those small 1-2% changes to increase their probability of them having a quote, and not only a quote in their system, but a quote that is possible to buy.
Wow, that's awesome. What about if an agent gets a little bit too specific and it hurts their lead volume?
Yeah. So, I always use the example of you don't ever put all your eggs in one basket, right? And it's just a good business. It's just a good mindset to be in throughout your life. So typically the way we set those specific filters up is we break them into 2 or 3 different tranches. Each tranche will have a different value. So you might have a specific target of the whole state of California. You might also have a specific close ratio bucket where farmers might close 20, 30% specific zip codes. And you use those different tranches to supply volume. So your team is busy enough throughout the day, but yet you also use the low volume buckets to help you increase your average close ratio. And those are the ones that typically move the needle the quickest because you don't need a lot of volume in those particular circumstances, but the volume you have is very, very important for the business.
Nice. Yeah, yeah, it's always a game you have to play. But yeah, I think the lead game, I used to say that, hey, internet leads, because I used to buy internet leads when I first started. The second day I opened up my agency, it was back in 2007. And when I was purchasing internet leads, the people around me were like, they're, I think, genuinely looking out for me, like, do not buy internet leads. You're gonna waste your money. How far has the lead game come from when you started to now, and what are you looking forward to as as the industry changes? Because people will just flat out tell me in my faces like, hey, internet leads do not work. And in my head, I was like, I would say something nice back to them,
Yeah.
but in my head, I was thinking like, well, maybe it's because you don't work.
Yeah. I think you have to break that apart in 2 different ways. I've seen it all. I've seen A to Z from, oh my gosh, to wow, that's super cool. And I think as you follow the progression of companies and who's acquired who and the business aspect of the industry, you've seen some things that are good for the industry. You've seen some things that are probably not the best for the industry. So I think you go in different waves when you see different acquisitions. One company eats up a second company, and all of a sudden, all heck breaks loose and things change. I think the commonality, you hit it very well, is what relationship do you have with your lead provider? And even if they change who owns them and who has their paycheck, as long as you're passing back that data and can provide real tangible things for them to adjust, you really shouldn't see huge variances in the types of quality. And even if you do, you now have data to say, hey, source 1, 2, 3, heck yeah, you're kicking butt. 5, 6, 7, maybe let's buy a little bit of less of that because it's really starting to sway my contact rate. It's really starting to sway my quote rate and my contact rate.
Nice. Yeah, quote rate, that's a great number to look at. Obviously closing ratio. What other metrics do you think is important when it comes to agents, like text back rate, or you know
I
you can.
think you got to look at it in a few different ways. So you get the classic. You have contact to quote ratio, right?
Mhm.
Your quote to bind ratio. But I think you also, when you look at holistic profitability of your agency, you have to look at a few other items that are a little bit further down the funnel. So A, what type of business are you running? Like I said, are you running non-standard that maybe your pay plan is not incentivizing you as high as if you're running the ultra preferred? So what type of business is it? What is your retention on that business? Oftentimes you'll find that the different types of leads you're buying, your retention will be wildly different. So if you have 50% retention, you're spending a heck of a lot of money to keep those consumers on the book versus maybe you have a 96% retention. Long-term profitability is wildly different on those two items. And then the other things that I think are so important is, what is your average item count, right? Are you writing single line items or are you writing people with 7, 8 types of things? Because the studies are out there. The more policies you have with the consumer, the more likely they are to stay on your book of business. So are you spinning wheels and having that business leave, or are you ingesting profitable business that's going to stick on the books for the agency? And then I think the last piece that's so important to look at is your average, premium per policy, right? Are you writing average of $15 per premium per policy, which is probably a renter's or whatever the heck, those lower numbers are, or are you averaging a $6,500 policy that all of a sudden revolutionizes your cash flow within the business? And those are a lot of things to monitor, especially for just one person to do it. And I think just monitoring each individually and then over a period of time, over 60, 90, over 2 years, understanding the trends and how they're changing are really important for the long-term profitability and viability of buying leads.
Yeah, I think that's the tough thing about buying leads too. Sometimes that agents will maybe look at this just the short-term ROI. It's really impossible to calculate what happens to that policy. Well, you could always count on a rate increase,
Yep.
but they may send you a referral or you may cross-sell them a house, 2 years later when they buy a house, or they may get married and add a car. It's just so hard to um, get the exact math on ROI. What would you say for agents who feel that way, or like I wish the numbers made more sense?
You have to invest in the right technology. I think technology is such an important piece on this. So if you track things on a spreadsheet, good for you, right? You're either really, really talented or maybe you're just a little lazy, right? Pick either side to this. Oftentimes when I have these conversations with folks is, hey, I have a CRM. Not only do I use it, but my team is invested, because we all know as a business owner, you can put something on your team's lap and they're either going to adopt it or they're going to run away from it. And those who adopt are probably going to have a lot easier reporting capabilities in 6 months, 12 years, 2 years, 5 years, or when they go to sell their book. Those who don't invest in training their team on those technology, or those who don't fully have everyone doing it, maybe we make an exception for so-and-so because they are special, right? So having full-fledged adoption on a technology is really important. And I think, especially as you project out, how has your business performed over the last few years? If your carrier isn't providing that information, you as a business owner need to understand, what's my profitability in the first 6 months? If it's a year policy, what's my profitability in year one? And at what point do I start making money on this investment I'm making? Because you're right, it's not all about that short-term investment. It's not all about hitting a unique policy count goal. It's how do I grow my book as a whole? And how does that book stay with me so that I can capture the recurring revenue?
Wow, yeah, yeah, really well said. What CRM do you use?
A number. So one of the folks who was on your podcast a few weeks ago, I think it was
Hmm.
the beginning part of February, LeadVolt, Jason. We,
Hmm.
we, we think those guys have a great product. We work very closely with those guys. We work closely with Dial Your Leads. We work closely with Ricochet. And then we also work closely with a lot of the one-off custom integrations where a business owner has either hired a team of developers and have built a pretty cool project or a pretty cool product. And the cool thing about us is if I have instructions on how to post or send leads in, we can build an integration. So we
Hmm.
do have that flexibility. If someone comes to me tomorrow with a new unique account or a new unique product, we can accommodate those requests.
Oh, nice. Yeah, nothing worse than getting a lead and manually having to put it in your CRM.
End of the day, I tell people not to buy because I know how the conversation is going to be in 2, 4, 6 weeks. Hey, I didn't contact any of those leads. Well, that's because you didn't have the processes in place. So leads should be used when processes are in place. Leads should
Hmm.
not be used when you're going to do it, you're going to implement it, but it hasn't been done. it really needs a foolproof system to be ingested by versus kind of figure it out on the fly or figure it out as you go.
Yeah. Well, you're the president of a lead company and you're saying that. So
Yeah, I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, people are business owners, and you have to do what's right by the business owner because otherwise you're going to have an ebbing and flowing business, and that's not good for anyone. That's not a good consumer experience. That's not a good partner experience. It's just not a good business model. So the reverse psychology, as bad as it sounds, it's okay to tell people no if you just know right out the gate it's not going to work. And I've had people be like, "Excuse me, like, what are you talking about?" But they oftentimes will take a second, like, "Hey, I actually appreciate that. Once I
yeah.
invest, I'm going to give you a call back. I'm not just going to say it. I'm actually going to email you back because they know that we have their best foot forward for them. And once they do have those processes in place, we believe they will have success."
I love that. You know, it's just always looking out for your customer's best interest, in any business. That always makes sense. So that's awesome to hear that you want your customers to win because
Yep.
that's how a business keeps going. So um yeah, what else, what other characteristics or things do you see in agencies, are they continuously changing their budget amount higher, or some of them staying the same, or do you see, what do you see in a pattern when it comes to agents that are doing well when it comes to spend?
I think two different things. I think everyone should always build a business around referrals. And again,
Referrals?
I'm a lead guy saying that. Everyone should have consistent referrals coming in. Here's the problem with referrals. One month you could have 100, the next month you could have two. So
Mhm.
on top of that referral system that you're building, in my opinion, you should build a buttoned up lead process where you're able to increase and decrease based on market conditions. So should you have those 100 referrals that are coming in and your team is overwhelmed, pull back on the lead spend. It's okay to spend less. Should it be a light month because of world issues or who the heck knows these days, right? You have the ability to scale up. So that's the power of digital marketing is you have the flexibility to increase or decrease spend based on market conditions, whether that's team members out, whether that's you just hired new team members, so you need to fill their bucket. So I think that's really, really important. The next piece that I would say is test, test,
Mhm.
test, test, test in 15 different ways if you can. And when you test, have numbers to back that up. So let's just say your first 15 leads didn't work. Why didn't they work? Was it a process? Was it the intent for lead? And then from there, have different buckets, different tranches. Keep your eggs in more than one basket so that you can put tangible intelligence behind what you're doing. And once you do find that one success vein or that one area where you are seeing success, know it,
Mhm.
emphasize it, and scale it.
Right. Yeah. Testing and then finding out the winner and then repeating that process. That's the way to go. That's the way to go. That totally makes sense. I love that. So what's next for Quotehound? I mean, what's going on over there? I hear some rumors about some new, I don't know if it's
Yeah.
product or something's got you guys excited over there.
We got a lot of things going on. We're hiring team members, which to me is probably the most exciting. I love bringing new team members on. I love sharing the passion for what we do. Starting a business is hard, as you know. Making it succeed is even harder, but that's where all the glory comes. So we're making big things. We're increasing our LinkedIn following, we're increasing our social media as business owners as well as individuals. And the other thing we're rolling out is we're rolling out a marketplace. So this has been a long time coming and a lot of late nights and working the process. But what we're looking to do is we're looking to peel back some of the preconceived notions. And what we're rolling out with soon is one centralized marketplace where you can purchase leads not only from Quotehound, but other well-known vendors. So you'll have one login, you'll be
Hmm.
able to purchase from multiple sources in one centralized marketplace, and you'll be able to make educated decisions based on the data you upload into the system. So for example, we talked about a few moments ago, closed loop reporting is so important. Well, those agents who feed the data back to us, we can help them understand which vendor is providing the highest close ratio and is the most profitable for them. We can also help them reduce their exposure to the vendors that are not providing positive ROI. So it's kind of pulling back that magical box that many people say, like, hey, what's in there? How's it going? Where do I get my leads? And we're rolling out a transparency marketplace where they'll understand who, what, when, where, and how, and how. So it's going to be very, very fun to watch it come about. And a lot of cool technology has gone into it. And I'm pretty excited for when it does roll out.
Yeah, that sounds awesome for the agents. Is that something that you had to partner with those big companies too to be able to?
Both. Yeah. So there's
Wow.
been increased partnerships within our current sources, increased partnerships within my team, bringing some new team members on to manage a lot of that flow and increased demand we have within our platform. And then really cementing some of the current technology partnerships that we have and ensuring that if we were to onboard 1,000 new partners, that our system won't break, that our system will thrive, their system will be able to deliver to the demand that we're building for.
Nice. Wow. Yeah, that's there's a lot to it. How many people you guys have on your team right now?
We have 8.
Eight.
We're lean and mean, and
Yeah.
I would like to double the size of our team in 2022 because our team members work extremely hard, and I think all the team members we have are very invested in us. But I want to make sure we're continuing to grow. We want to be on for that next growth trajectory, whether that's in a new vertical, whether that's scaling a current vertical. So in order to do that, we got to hire great people, and there's a lot of great people out there right now looking for something different, looking to join a team who cares about what they do and an organization where they can see their work making a meaningful impact.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's the best part about being the leader, you know. So I definitely agree with you on that. That's so fun to build a team.
Mhm.
Um, when it comes to, you know, auto insurance leads, homeowner insurance leads, do you, do you see people still shopping the
Yeah,
way they are? You see
yeah.
any
I
trends
think
there?
I think you're going to see. I think there'll be an increased. Well, digital marketing as a whole is growing as a
Hmm.
category, right? So I think you're going to see less foot traffic from organizations where they might be used to 10, 20 walk-ins a month. And I think you're going to continue to see the digital shift where folks are going online. They're just looking to call someone right now. They're not looking to fill out a form. They just want to speak to the first person to answer the phone. So I think you're going to see an increase in the amount of phone calls within the marketplace. And I think you're going to see an increase in the amount of folks that are requesting information on forms. I think those are going to be your two major growth categories within the next few months.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, it's not going away. You know, everybody's on their phones, everybody searches on their phones, and it's just something where you want to have a presence and be able to, know where the attention is and try to, partner up with somebody that is able to capture information. Um, what would you say to like anyone who's on the fence about, you know, purchasing leads or maybe had bad experience? Like, where would you, where's a good place to start or mindsets that you would try to have them develop? You got to think long term, or what type of budget do you have to kind of like put at risk or anything kind of like big picture stuff that
Sure.
for agents that they've been told, you gotta be, you gotta purchase leads to grow your agency. They want to grow their agencies, but maybe a little shy or a little, you know, unsure about, jumping in again or
Have a
trying for the first
conversation.
time.
I think it starts with a conversation. We need to understand to have success if it's broken. We need to understand what broke, right? Was it process? Was it people? Was it lead quality? It could have been a combination of all three of those things. So have a conversation with your lead provider. Have a conversation with Quotehound to say, hey, I bought leads in the past from XYZ vendor. Here's what I think worked, right? We'll let you know, hey, maybe you should look at 2 or 3 of those unique things. Maybe you should look at your scripting. Maybe you should look at your call cadence.
Hmm.
Maybe you should look at texting consumers. Consumers do like to text. So I think there are the first piece that you need to have the conversation on is what broke and how can we help you fix the processes that will help you perform strong on this? Because there are lots of leads in the system today. There are lots of consumer shopping. Ultimately, they need to get policies, they need to get quotes. So the intent is there. The process is how do we bring them from an intent consumer to a consumer that you're protecting within your book of business. So they're there. Now we need to understand the processes to take and help you armed with the tools so that you can take them and scale your business.
That totally makes sense. What about for agents that already have a few different lead vendors, and then they maybe are came to awareness of Quotehound for the first time here? Like, how would you guys say compared to the other, more commonly heard lead vendors out there?
Test. Give us a segment of your marketing budget. Help us test side by side. We welcome side by side tests. It's great. I think no matter where you buy leads from, you should always lead and test other things because you might think your current close ratio is good, but what if we perform 1% better, right? What if we're able to filter the leads just a little bit different? So back to the Liberty conversation. What if your close ratio on a specific carrier is that much higher? we don't need to supply you with a lot of volume. Maybe we just supply you with their whole high close ratio leads. And that in itself is going to make the major difference in your business. So test, 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 and get thinking of what you want to test. Don't just blindly test. Say, hey, what's the goal of this campaign? The goal is to find more ultra preferred consumers. The goal is to provide more non-standard consumers. Whatever that goal might be, understand how to measure that goal and put tests behind it.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, that's awesome. I think when it comes to testing too, one of the things that I was looking at too much was cost per lead. Because I wasn't just selling, I was selling to the team members. But one of the things I noticed is like, hey, well, certain vendors or certain, sources, they have a great cost per lead, but then the cost per conversion wasn't that good.
Yep.
So sometimes we kind of get caught up in the wrong metrics where we're thinking like, hey, how much are we getting for this, our marketing budget? We want to always, optimize for conversions. So you know, do you see that a lot where a certain, and that's why it makes a big difference in how much a certain type of lead is, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think just looking at the sheer cost per lead is not doing due diligence, right? So what's your COA, right? Let's just say your COA target is $250 per household, right?
COA is
Cost per acquisition.
okay.
So let's just say your overall acquisition target is $250.
Hmm.
If you buy a $250 lead that closes at 100%, you're to your goal, right?
Yeah.
Or if you buy a lead that performs at 2% or 3% or 5%, now you adjust your cost per lead. So that's why when we talk about those metrics, is understanding what's your premium average, right?
Mm,
Because if you have a goal of 250 and you meet that goal, but your premium is only 250, now you spend every single dollar on your marketing cost. That's pretty dangerous. But if that same $250 household that you just captured for the COA marketing cost, if you capture $8,000 of premium, all of a sudden your numbers are looking pretty good. So I would recommend understanding what is the revenue per consumer that you're capturing, whether that's a policy fee if you're independent or just the revenue from your carrier. Understanding that in addition to the cost per acquisition and the cost per lead, those are the four things that you really need to monitor, because without one, you really don't understand how profitable is your business. So it's really thinking more of a short-term solution versus, hey, my long-term solution is I need to spend 2%, 3% of marketing cost on my total acquisition. And you can start to target those things if you have the data and if you organize your business in the proper manner.
yeah. Wow. Yeah. Well, the data is, that's the part maybe some agents, may get, analyzing data that kind of like, maybe scares them or
Mhm.
but I was the same way too. I was like, hey, I almost trusted my intuition too much, and then wasn't really looking at data. But ever since I started doing that, it really really helped my businesses. But you
Think you
know
can think you can rely on other people for it too. It's not just a one man or one woman show. You
hmm
got to rely on other people that you have in your business unit. So whether that's a team member who's looking to help the business out more, and they're not
hmm
sure what that career path looks like, maybe empowering someone else to help you co-manage that product, or maybe you take that back to your vendors, whether that's a technology vendor, whether that's a lead vendor, whether that's your manager from the corporation you work for. There are a lot of smart people in this world, and sharing that information back and forth, you can often create great ideas, and your tunnel vision is dangerous. So using those other sources is so powerful.
that's a great point. That's a really good point. Having other people look at it, maybe you're not that, if you're not the analytical type, then get some help there, because the world's definitely going in a direction. There's so much information and data available that if you don't like to sit there and look at things, then, look at it with somebody else or hire somebody or
you
internally
could
too.
you could probably make someone on your current team who
Hmm.
your payroll is accounted for. You could probably make the day by empowering them to help with that project. They could be looking for that next thing to keep them on board, the next thing to make them feel that they're moving the needle from the business perspective. And most businesses have those people. They might not be the most boisterous people, or they might be kind of the quiet type, or maybe they're the vocal type. It doesn't really matter. Having the conversation to say, hey team, I'm looking to do this. Who has the skill set? Who wants to learn the skill set side by side with me? That can be a powerful recruiting tool. That can be a powerful retention tool.
Definitely. And powerful to have your agency grow, once you have the data and you make better business decisions. And
Yeah.
yeah, you're right, you'll make them feel like they really a big part of the team. But because this business, there's a lot of communication, people side to it and relationship side to it, but there's a lot of, number side to it too.
Yeah.
So you need some people on your team that's good at both of those areas.
Yep. Yeah, A to Z is tough. You got to break it apart into pieces.
Hmm. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Lots of great stuff, Justin. So how, how do you miss San Diego?
Oh man, San Diego is near and dear to my heart. My fiance is from there, so I navigate back as much as humanly possible. I'm a big sailor, so I
Oh
still go
yeah.
back and sail every few months. But whew, it's Dallas has been great. I love the people here. I've eaten a little bit too much barbecue, but it's really good. And it change is good. Sometimes it puts you out of your comfort zone. So I always like to change it up every once in a while. But man, I do get back to San Diego as much as humanly possible because it's just a phenomenal place with great people.
Yeah. Mm, probably miss the weather, but probably not the taxes.
No, yeah, my tax bill's gone down substantially, which I stay quiet, so that doesn't change.
That's awesome, man. Well, yeah, that's awesome that we connected, Jeff. I mean, Justin. Yeah, say hi to Jeff for me.
I will.
But yeah, the league game is super interesting. It's just something, where it's so scalable. I think that's what makes it so exciting. It's like, yeah, you can get some referrals. Yeah, you
Mhm.
have a natural market. You can do some events, but if it's a click of a button of adjusting your marketing budget, you could get more.
Yeah,
And if you don't have a marketing problem, then everything else can be figured out, hiring people, training people, recruiting people. Those are all difficult things, but it all starts with marketing, getting that first lead, getting that first person to talk to. So it is, the number one question agency owners have to, figure out how to solve. So
sure.
if you have a solution for us agency owners, then I recommend everybody, who wants to learn more to contact you guys. What's the best way?
Yeah, so you can book an appointment on our website. You can check us out on social media. We're growing our Facebook page. We're growing our LinkedIn page. Check us out as business owners too. We feel that social media is a powerful tool. LinkedIn is probably number one thing. I think I'm up to 12,000, maybe 13,000 connections. So hit us up, ask us for questions, book an opportunity on our website. We'd love to have a conversation and provide some insight from our perspective.
Okay, great. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, LinkedIn, I need to get on there. Jeff always tells me that I need to.
Great tool. It's
Yeah,
my number one tool. So
really.
it's full of like-minded individuals who just want to grow and learn.
Are you just spamming the heck out of people?
No, I don't even use it in a spammy way. I think my last two team members who joined us, they put messages out saying they're looking for an opportunity. I reached out and I have two great team members because of that. So I
Oh,
think it's just
recruiting
a
wise.
great common tool and people share good thoughts from my network. And it's just a good way to grow and learn and see what other people are doing in the space.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's so much to learn from each other, and I definitely learned a lot from you, Justin. And I'm gonna keep in touch with you guys. I have a couple ideas brewing. Maybe you guys could help me out with basically certain filters, and
Absolutely.
kind of check out what your guys' lead volume is with that, and then with the territory. But yeah, I'm a big believer in spending money to make money. And finding the right vendor to partner up with is really critical in our journeys as agency owners. So happy that I'm able to bring awareness to you guys. Hopefully you guys will pick up some clients, and then maybe we could do some things in the future too. So yeah, great to getting to know you, Justin. We'll keep in touch, and looking forward to big things coming up with Quotehound.
Awesome. Appreciate the time, Dan. Always great to reconnect and excited to see where the future takes us.
Same here. Thanks again, Justin.
Thanks, Dan.
See you, man.